The mayor of Newark, Mayor Baraka, up and coming leader in the Democratic Party. He's on the short list for potential presidential run. He's running for governor of New Jersey. That didn't stop Alina Habba. That's the reason that Alina Habba, the political hack serving as the U.S. attorney in New Jersey, decided to try to put his hands behind his back. Strong, proud black mayor put his hands behind his back and do a perp walk with handcuffs on a petty trespass charge that was all made up, all conjured up when he and members of Congress went down to a new immigration detention facility, Delaney Hall, operated by a friend of Donald Trump, a private prison system. And then they concocted this whole fake scandal in order to arrest Baraka. He's firing back with a new lawsuit in federal court aimed directly at Alina Habba, who's being sued for defamation and other things. We break it all down for you. Where else? On Legal AF, the podcast. And here's a clip. We've got Ross Baraka, who I like a lot. I'm following him out of Newark. He's running for governor. He's one of the people. I'm not sure he gets governor, but he's running for governor of New Jersey. And he's on the short list of people that might be interested in running for the presidency in 2028. One of the leaders, he's on our deep bench of Democratic leaders for the presidency that matter. And of course, Alina Habba knew that, and Donald Trump knew that. And the reason that Donald Trump put Alina Habba into that cushy position she's not qualified to handle, having never been a federal court practitioner ever in her life, nor clerk for a federal judge, nor any of that, other than her close personal relationship with Donald Trump and being his criminal defense lawyer and his chief shill. She's a political hack of the first order and a hatchet person of the first order. And that's why he put her in that plum role to go after all of his Democratic rivals. And she doesn't, speaking of, like you said before, he doesn't hide it. She doesn't hide it. She says it on she still runs her personal social media where she talks about going after Cory Booker and the governor of New Jersey, all Democrats, for no good reason other than the fact she doesn't like the color of their party, where that was going, and at least for Cory Booker. And she did the same thing. Then she, since she was never trained in the Department of Justice, doesn't understand, nor has she read the Department of Justice manual. She doesn't understand what it's proper and improper for a prosecutor to do. You do, having spent 30 years as a prosecutor in the state courts. She never did and never will and doesn't want to. So she brought all of these charges you and I have been talking about, the member of Congress who's still indicted by her, and Mayor Baraka, all because in April, 3 members of Congress and the mayor went down to Newark, New Jersey, where he's the mayor, to go do what they're supposed to do under the law, which is to inspect the immigration detention center that's operated by a private company that gave money to Donald Trump. So it's a private prison. And they went down to go inspect it. And the crowds were outside seething over it. And the private guards that run that detention center saw Mayor Baraka and invited him in. That's almost undisputed, to try to quell the crowd. And he was there. And then Department of Homeland Security showed up, obviously under directions of both Pam Bondi and Kristi Noem, and I'm sure Alina Habba, and they wanted the imagery of a strong black male leader being taken away with handcuffs, and they got it. And before he was even arraigned, before he was his criminal complaint was even up and running, Alina Habba was already on her social media talking about corruption of Baraka and the fact that no one's above the law and all this other stuff. And then she did the same thing in Fox News interviews with CNN and the rest. There's a little problem with that. 12 days later, she dismissed the trespass claims against him, although she kept it against the other member of Congress. And she's still facing those couple of counts. And when she got brought before Judge Espinoza, a magistrate judge in New Jersey, he spent a considerable amount of time with her there, chastising her and saying, and I'll paraphrase, Karen, you have to do better. Your office requires you to do better. You are a prosecutor. You are not a private political hack any longer. Those are my words. And the fact that you rush to prosecute, you're not supposed to follow, public clamor or political leanings. You're supposed to do it because it's right under the Department of Justice manual. And you failed, and you must do better. as he didn't have to do any of that. He could have just accepted the dismissal and said, good day, but he wasn't going to do that. And that was an invitation, not that he needed it, for Baraka's lawyers to file their suit. You have a unique perspective as a former prosecutor and prosecutorial discretion and why that's important in our society because of the power that you yield. Why don't you take it from there, and then we'll talk about the claims that have been brought by Mayor Baraka.
Yeah, well, this case is somewhat stunning to me because this case was not dismissed because of prosecutorial discretion. This case was dismissed because they had no legal basis to bring it in the first place, right? And I've prosecuted many, many cases involving big scrums of lots of people like members of Congress, mayors, et cetera, who show up at protests, right? That happens all the time. This is not unique. That is part of their job. In fact, in this particular instance, the members of Congress showed up to this detention facility, which is a private prison, by the way, that is being used to hold these detainees before deportation. They showed up to inspect, which is part of their job. They're actually supposed to do that. And they showed up, as did the mayor of Newark, because this is in the city of Newark. They were in a place where the members of Congress were in a place on the other side of the fence, so inside the fence, and the mayor was outside the fence and just with the protesters. Now, one of the employees actually invited the mayor onto the other side of the fence to try to stop and quell any unrest, to try to calm people. And meanwhile, the members of Congress were just being held there for over an hour. They weren't being put inside the facility. So a lot was going on. The mayor, and the reason that's significant and the facts are significant, is he was invited onto the property. And so as a result, you can't invite someone onto private property and then charge them with trespass. So the case had to be dismissed ultimately because it had no merit. It was legally, he wasn't guilty of the crime. Now, the reason I bring up my past prosecutorial experience is we would have never arrested someone like a mayor or a member of Congress or something like that in a case like this where it is so complicated because so much was going on. There were so many people. There was pushing. It wasn't like one person did this and another person did that. These kinds of cases, you have to review all the video, talk to witnesses. You have to really put some work into it, normal investigative work, see if the facts actually meet the elements of the crime, and then decide whether or not to charge. In this particular instance, they decided to charge first because this was a political show and a political spectacle. There was no reason to arrest this guy right then and there. He wasn't a risk to flee the jurisdiction. He's the mayor of Newark. He wasn't any danger to others. You didn't have to put him in for what Alina Habba admitted herself was a, quote, petty crime, because it was misdemeanor trespass. So once they stopped their political stunt and actually looked at the facts of the case, they decided we have to dismiss this case. And so we will dismiss this case. I'm sure they say it's in our discretion and all that kind of stuff, but no, they did it because substantively the facts did not constitute a crime, but they weren't satisfied. They still wanted to arrest I hate to say this out loud, but a person of color. That's what it certainly seems like. They then arrest the Congresswoman, LaMonica MacGyver, who they say she's charged with assault. I've watched that video over and over and over again. I don't see an assault, but maybe there's other videos from other angles. I don't know, but they are charging a member of Congress with assaulting law enforcement. So they just want to go after somebody, and they're going to make a statement here one way or another. It's like very interesting to me, the Trump administration, they go and do the thing in all instances. They go and they do the thing that's illegal, frankly. And then once they're told it's illegal, they double down and do it even more. It's like they can't. They want to just keep pushing and keep pushing. I like how you said it, all gas and no brakes.
Thanks for watching our After Dark edition. While you're here, take a moment, hit the subscribe button for Legal AF, the YouTube channel. And of course, help us continue to grow Legal AF, the podcast, 5 years in the making, #1 law and politics podcast on the YouTube channels. But without your support, we're absolutely nothing. We're trying to continue to grow our pro-democracy podcast, Legal AF. We can only do it with you. We need more audio downloads. We need more viewers, and that just comes from us. We're building this network, this channel ourselves. We don't blow smoke. We don't blow sunshine, despite my glasses. We just bring it all together every week, Wednesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on the Midas Touch Network. And, of course, rebroadcasted, if you will, on Legal AF. We're trying to be the one-stop shop for all things law and politics as well over there. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.